Welcome in. It is College Football Tailgate, Week 11 preview show. I'm Dan Watkins. John McKechnie is here as always. John, here we go. 4 weeks left to go in the regular season. We have our initial set of rankings from our playoff committee, and we have that just like kind of like our base level of where do we go from here, who needs to impress, who's looking good, who has the committee already been impressed by. Just a fun time to talk about college football. We got a lot of fun games coming up this weekend to break down. We got this monster matchup in the Big 12 that I think in the preseason nobody saw coming. But it's just a really fun and exciting time in college football right now.
I'm buzzing. The start of the playoff committee rankings is always kind of a nice signpost that, a good bit of the season is unfortunately behind us, but it sets up for a crazy final month. I mean, if you're hemming and hawing about where you are in the rankings, just take care of your own business. The committee's going to see it. Sometimes I feel like the committee will like kind of play some games, especially with these early ones, because in actuality, they don't matter all that much, like relative to the final ones. So they can kind of like create some narratives. Like obviously we see coming out like, oh, is the committee mad at the ACC and stuff like that? I was kind of wondering, because we've seen them not put what everyone would say is the best team in the country at number one before. We saw it all the way back with the first ones, with Miss State being the first ever number one seed. And
Shout out Starkville.
Yeah, of course. So we'll get to them. Got some interesting reports coming from there. Tennessee a couple of years ago. So I thought there was a chance that Indiana might be the number one. We talked about that on Monday, but ultimately I can't argue with Ohio State being the best team. Like we said, it's a setup where by the time that December rolls around, the final rankings come in, I'll be pretty stunned if Ohio State isn't the number one team in the country. So they weren't playing those games. You want to talk a little G5 too?
Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, for the most part, as you were just hinting at, the top of the board is pretty much what we all expected, right? You got Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M as the top three. We were just saying Indiana just because we thought, well, maybe that Oregon win is the most impressive win in the country, so maybe they give them the nod over the Buckeyes. But I don't have a problem. You should not have a problem with Ohio State being number one. Yes, they're the defending champs and all that, but they have just been so dominant. They're giving up 7 points per game right now on defense. So Ohio State is rolling, Indiana, A&M, and then we get to the trio of SEC teams in Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. Then this is where I think we start to get a little interesting here. BYU comes in at 7. They're going to play Texas Tech this weekend, who's at number 8. Oregon 9. Notre Dame 10. Texas and Oklahoma in there as well. Utah at 13. And then finally, number 14 is where we see an ACC team with Virginia right now. So let's just talk about the ACC quick, because we were talking about this, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, that maybe the ACC gets 3 teams in, but, well, it looks like the committee is saying, no, you guys are going to get 1 only because, well, we have to give you 1. Your conference is just a total mess right now, and it kind of feels like they're just mad at Miami, and they just kind of buried Miami, even though Miami is also pretty much burying themselves on the football field at this point.
Yeah, I think it gets a little worse for Miami from here, but I feel like the committee is almost making the ACC like the new Big 12.
Sure.
They've kind of flip-flopped them in terms of where they respect them in the grander pecking order of these power conferences, because for years, Big 12 is just going to be lucky to even get into the college football playoff and stuff like that. Or, last year, just the one team. But you got 3 of the top 13. You've got 2 in the top 10. And whereas the ACC, I think I do understand it objectively that, do you really feel like Virginia is the 14th best team in the country? Not really, but I mean that the record, obviously, you have to slot them in there.
Yeah, it's like process of elimination, basically.
Yeah.
Well, okay, they beat this team who beat that team and that kind of thing, and it's just I guess we're left with Virginia, now. So that's basically where we're at.
That's where we're sitting. So I think there's still a chance that they get 2, but it obviously. The way that this sets up, the way that the committee opened these rankings, they're definitely kind of laying down the gauntlet. You guys need to prove something. You're going to need a team to get rocket hot here down the stretch in order to do this. if I may, I actually thought about a couple of teams that are ranked top 20 or at 20 or later that we need to keep an eye on. We'll talk about one of them in depth during this pod, but Pitt and Iowa, I think, are the two teams that you really need to keep an eye on here down the stretch. Both of them have top 10 strength of schedule remaining. So, like, it's going to be an absolute gauntlet for both of those teams. We've talked about it almost ad nauseum with Pitt. You know, they've got Notre Dame, they've got Georgia Tech, they got Miami to finish it out. If they do that, if they go 3-0, not only are they doing irreparable damage to those three teams as far as their playoff chances go, but they punch their ticket to the ACC championship game. And I think at that point, if they get through that gauntlet, you'd have to think that they're going to be favored to win the ACC. So keep an eye on them. I'm not sure what their ACC championship odds are, but keep it up there. And then Iowa, we'll know pretty quickly, within the next 48 hours. But they have a chance to knock off both Oregon and USC down the stretch. I think that they won't have too much trouble with their other two teams. The way that they're playing right now, what was it, the Minnesota game notwithstanding, really impressive. I feel like that game stands out as one of the weirder results of the year. So they could just be. I'm kind of seeing almost like a 10-car pileup of 10-2 teams here, and Iowa can really kind of put their best foot forward here over the last month of the season and really make a strong impression here and be one of those teams that is right there in the mix when the committee's picking and choosing, nitpicking, taking the magnifying glass to those 10-win teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up Iowa because, well, I think the committee feels the same way that you do. The playoff committee ranked Iowa number 20 coming in in their first rankings, where the AP has Iowa unranked right now. So definitely something to keep an eye on there with the Hawkeyes. We're going to preview and break down that game against Oregon this weekend in full. I guess the weather's going to be a total mess there. Iowa, all of a sudden, has looked like they might have some semblance of a 20-25 offense, and they're actually moving the ball a little bit. So we're going to break down that Oregon-Iowa game coming up in a little bit. I do want to come back to Miami and circle back here because some people are a little frustrated, maybe raising their eyebrow that, Miami beat Notre Dame back in week 1, and they have the same record here through 10 weeks of the season. But Notre Dame's ranked number 10, and Miami's down at 16 or something like that. 18, yeah. So Notre Dame is 8 spots ahead of Miami, same record, and they lost the head-to-head. John, I feel like this is just it's the unwritten rule in college football. It always has been that, early losses mean far less than later losses, and it's a what have you done for me lately world that we live in here, especially in college football. And Miami has just not looked good the last 3 times we've seen them on the football field, where they have lost to Louisville, they have lost to SMU, and then they were tied with Stanford at halftime in a game that they were nearly a 30-point favorite. Yes, they ultimately win that game 42-7 and woke up in the second half, but just Miami does not look good right now, and the committee, it kind of feels like they just punished them this past week, whether they were really high on them going into the season. Some of the people may be on that committee, and they've just been thoroughly uninspired and unimpressed with what's happened here in the last 3-4 weeks. But it definitely feels like a message was sent there to Mario Cristobal's team.
It does, and I think, I'm going to go in and step in for you on the Notre Dame front. Obviously, those first 2 weeks did not go well, but is Notre Dame playing like a top 10 team since then? Absolutely. In fact, the advanced metrics have Notre Dame as a top 10 team. I think both FEI and SP Plus are in agreement that Notre Dame is actually the 7th best team in the country by the numbers. So it's not just a vibes thing they're looking pretty good out there. No, the numbers back it up. How they're performing is backing it up. The defense, I'm sure, is kind of quelling any lingering concerns that maybe the committee had about this team's long-term viability. Whereas Miami, you kind of feel like that they still have 1 or 2 more losses in them. The vibes for them have to be just astronomically bad coming out of that SMU game. It was kind of funny how we were talking about last week. This is their first game outside of the state of Florida, and wow, yeah, they crumpled. They crumpled in that setup.
And all of their issues feel self-inflicted. Totally. Whether it's back turning the ball over, some poor game management, it's just it feels like the committee's definitely looking at Miami and be like, well, you guys can't even figure out your own crap right now, so we're not going to leave you up here towards the top 10, even though you are 6-2 right now.
That's the Mario Cristobal special, man. Like, always less than the sum of the parts. It's crazy because it's so frustrating because I think he's not a bad coach and he's such a great acquirer of talent, but these teams always find a way to biff it.
Absolutely. I mean, he's one of the best recruiters, I think, in the country. But then it's just once he gets everything, it's just, putting that recipe. He's got all the ingredients to cook the big meal, right? To go full Colin Cowherd on you, right? Mario's that chef that, you want him to do the shopping, but he can't cook right. He can't make you that 5-star Michelin restaurant meal. And it feels a little more like you're eating at, like, a chain restaurant.
Yeah, he forgot to thaw the turkey before he threw it in the fryer, and the whole house is on fire now.
Very good. Yep, very timely with Thanksgiving coming up in a few weeks. G5. So the committee doesn't put any of the G5 teams in the top 25 here, but Memphis right now would be the representative. I don't really have an issue with it. I mean, there's no one. We don't have that kind of like Boise State runaway train from like a year ago where it was like, ooh, okay, this team might actually be able to make some noise. Like, it just kind of feels like, all right, sure, we'll go with Memphis as the best team in the G5 right now.
So I have a bit of a tinfoil hat theory on this, that the committee is sort of recusing themselves from engaging in this discourse right now. They're kind of kicking the can down the road. Like, I think we have a bucket of like probably 5 teams from that particular group of teams from the G6 where it's like Memphis, San Diego State,
JMU,
like teams like that. USF.
San Diego State.
Yeah, so like there's that bucket of teams, and no one really knows how to power rank them right now. I don't think so. I think ultimately the committee's just going to kind of wait and see. Memphis has Tulane this week, I believe. So like that could potentially be a way of Memphis excusing themselves from the conversation. We'll see what happens there. San Diego State and JMU, I think, are interesting teams to keep an eye on here as we get down the stretch. I know JMU has Marshall this week, and I forget off the top of my head who the Aztecs have, but they've sort of emerged as potential candidates. But ultimately, I don't see a group of 6 team in the rankings here for at least maybe another week, depending on if there's a really loud victory this weekend.
Yeah, that Memphis-Tulane game is definitely one to keep an eye on. I'll have a little more on that coming up when we get to our best bets segment towards the end of the show. One other thing I do want to tie a little bow on here when it comes to these rankings is the Big 12, John. It looks like the Big 12 is going to get multiple teams in this thing as of right now with our first set of rankings. You got BYU at 7, Texas Tech at 8. Those 2 teams play each other this weekend. Then we got Utah sitting there at 13 as well. Big 12 looking like a pretty strong conference at the moment compared to a year ago where they get just the one team in Arizona State. But your thoughts on this initial set of rankings there for the Big 12?
I think the Utah one in particular is a big statement from the committee. I think it was pretty fair and obvious that Texas Tech and BYU would be in the top 10 or at least in the top 12 if nothing else.
Right.
And BYU being undefeated, of course, is going to if you had them lower than 8 or 9, like it'd be kind of like, what are you doing? I forget where I had them earlier this week, but but I think Utah, they're going to kind of have, and I don't mean to scare you, but they're going to kind of have a resume like Notre Dame's potentially, where win 10 games, you lose 2 games, both really quality losses. So if Utah wins out, their huge win over Cincinnati last week, I think has them pointed in the right direction. SP Plus has Utah as actually like the 8th best team in the country right now.
Yeah,
so,
the metrics love Utah.
Yeah, so
for sure.
I think you can look at that and wonder, like, is it just because they're like beating up on all the non-quality opponents that they have, and kind of like putting lipstick on the pig a little bit that way. But either way, Utah being 13, it just tells you that if they win out and some dominoes fall here between seeds 7 through 12, Utah is going to be one of those teams like Iowa, but it's much easier to envision it with Utah having a very impressive 10-2 resume.
Yeah, absolutely. So Utah they're on the bye this week in Week 11, then they wrap up at Baylor, and they got Kansas State and Kansas down the stretch there. Utah's got to get healthy, though. I mean, I could see Utah being that team where the committee's like, well, like if Dampier isn't fully healthy, like, do they do that sort of thing, right? Where it's like, well, we don't think you're at your best right now and that sort of thing. So that'll definitely be something to keep an eye on here as we move forward. And Utah is going to be a really fascinating case too, John, where we have like an SEC team with 3 losses. Do they take the SEC team at 9-3? Like, let's say it's Texas, right? Like, let's say Texas finishes at 9-3 and they have that win over either Georgia or Texas A&M here down the stretch, and they're at 9-3 and Utah's at 10-2. That's going to be really fascinating to see what this committee does here for the playoff.
And I think objectively, like I'm a Georgia guy. I'm not an SEC guy at all. I hate everybody. So, like I think if you lose 3 games in the regular season, like the committee should be like, you're out. Sorry. Like just like what happened with Alabama last year. Like I think that a 10-win team is more impressive, especially when we're talking about a Utah team that plays in a conference that has a lot of respect from the committee right now. So a 10-2 in the Big 12 this year, I think, is more impressive than 9-3. Too bad, so sad if your 3 losses are to quality opponents. That Florida game, I think, is sort of like for Ole Miss last year. That Florida game is going to be the one that kind of like sticks out to you. And it's like, what were we doing on that Saturday?
Absolutely. Yeah, it did, and I love that. You don't care about that patch on your chest whatsoever. But what you do care about, John, and I know this for a fact, is that people subscribe to the channel.
I do.
We are College Football Tailgate. We do this twice a week. We do usually like a Monday and a Thursday, a recap and a preview show. Thank you very much for watching, if you are watching right now, and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribed and following the channel. It helps John and I as we continue to grow this thing. At College Football Tailgate, you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify as well. We are on Twitter at CFB Tailgate 25 and TikTok at CFB Tailgate, where a lot of the fun happens in the comments there. But yeah, just thank you very much, guys, if you have been watching and following along with us throughout the season, or if you're new here as well, just tell a friend, tell your parents, tell your grandma to subscribe to the channel. It would do a lot of good for us here as we continue to build this thing. All right, let's get to these game breakdowns and start talking about some of these games this weekend. And John, as we know, this next bunch that we're going to talk about is always just, it's a bit of a hornet's nest that you can kick over here. But if you're ready, I am ready. Let's talk about this monster matchup we got going on in the Big 12. BYU heads to Lubbock, Texas to take on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Texas Tech favored by 10.5 here on this Thursday morning when we're recording this. The total sitting at 52.5. Texas Tech comes into this game healthy, which is a key note here. They are also a top 5 offense and a top 10 defense against BYU. Texas Tech, John, when Baron Morton plays, they have not played a game within 20 points this season. Morton is going to be the starting quarterback on Saturday afternoon when these two teams meet. This is a noon kickoff, by the way, to get your Saturday going. To me, this feels like the kind of game where, on paper, BYU's like fighting out of their weight class. And they're heading up to that next group, but we don't play these games on paper. We play it on the field, and as we've seen, BYU is a very fundamentally sound team. They are very good at forcing turnovers. They don't beat themselves, and if you can't deliver that knockout punch, they're going to hang around, and they very well could find a way to win this game here. But what do you expect in this matchup? I think this Texas Tech defensive line is going to be a little too much for BYU to handle, and I think that's going to aid the Red Raiders in pulling away with this win on Saturday.
As a damp boy myself, like I do kind of have a little bit more faith in Bear Bachmeier, that like not being put in a blender the way that Dampier was against Texas Tech. But that offensive line, I mean, Utah's offensive line rates is the best or one of the best in the country, and Dampier under duress that entire game. BYU's got some big guys up front in their own right, so I don't know. It's going to be hard, and it's going to be in Lubbock. It's going to be loud. I saw some pictures on the scene. People are already camping out. Like on the quad and stuff, for like they got the tents out and everything. So like it's gonna be akin to like that 2008 Texas game, the Crabtree game. Like as far as the environment.
That was the last
goes.
time game day was there, by the way.
Oh dang, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well,
how about that parallel?
Love it. Lubbock. Anyhow, I think as much as I've poo-pooed BYU throughout the year, and as much praise as I've given Texas Tech, 10.5 feels like a lot. I feel like BYU can play this game close. I don't think that they win it outright. That would be surprising to me, but I do think that there's a very good chance that BYU makes this a 4-quarter game. Maybe Texas Tech has to kind of pull it out at the end. I think the Red Raiders win this one again, but ultimately I think we get a bit of a defensive struggle. Texas Tech wins out.
So Bachmeier, I think, is going to have a lot on his plate this one, right? So we know BYU does have one of the best rushing attacks in the country. They're going up against the number one run defense here in college football, playing Texas Tech. I don't know. I feel like this is a lot to ask for a freshman quarterback. This is even another step up from Iowa State a few weeks ago, and Bachmeier was tremendous in this game. I don't want to disrespect him or anything like that. I just think Texas Tech is better. The line might be a little disrespectful, but I could see this one, John, being like a 31-20 with like a field goal within the last 2 minutes that gives Texas Tech that cover. Where like this game's sitting at a touchdown like all afternoon, and then they get that final drive where they just make it a 2-score game, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, if you have a Texas Tech ticket, you're like, wow, I cashed that one, thank God. And then on the other side too, BYU's run defense, they can be run on. This Texas Tech run offense, they average close to 200 yards per game. I think it's like 197 or something like that. I like the profile of Texas Tech more here, like that, and that's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling pretty strongly that I feel very strongly Texas Tech wins this game. I would take them to cover. I'm not betting a dime on this. This game is not on my card this week, but I like Texas Tech here to come away with a fairly convincing win.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So on slightly opposite sides here, I will say that yeah, for my purposes, it's not on my card either. But I think BYU makes this a game, but it's either BYU makes it a game or Texas Tech blows them out. I think that's kind of like my basic thoughts here.
And what do the computers say?
The computers love the under the most. FEI has a total of 44 points being scored in this one. SP Plus has Texas Tech by around 10 points, so just inside that number for BYU. And FEI has Texas Tech winning this one by 8. So both the models seem to think that this is close to the number, but BYU would be their side, and then the under the strongest recommendation from there.
Yeah, this could definitely be a game where on Monday we're talking about my entire perception of BYU has changed. If BYU does go into Lubbock and pulls off this win, I mean, I don't know how you can't just tip your hat and be very impressed with what the Cougars have done this season. But I'm going to take Texas Tech just to be safe there with that game. All right, moving on. Texas A&M at Missouri. This is a fun one in the SEC. The Aggies favored by 6.5 or 7 points on the road. We get the first start for Missouri freshman quarterback Matt Zollers, who came in after Bo Perbula got hurt against Vandy a couple weeks ago. So they've had a couple weeks to prepare there for him to get ready for this one. Ahmad Hardy, John, it's been curious with him. Like, been very high on him, yet in the SEC games, he is not getting to that century mark. He doesn't have a 100-yard rushing game since September. Texas A&M ranks 131st in the country in red zone defense, allowing opponents to score in over 96% of their trips down there. And Missouri's got a pretty good offense once they get down there. They're cashing in on like 87% of their red zone opportunities. So if Missouri can move the ball on this A&M defense here, I do think they're going to be able to score and keep this one close. But my concern on the other side, though, we know how great this Missouri pass rush is. Are they going to be able to bottle up Marcel Reed and his receivers? Because Reed has been fantastic, just making plays with both his arm and his legs this season.
He has, so that I think is going to be a huge tale of this game. Dane Wilson and company, are they going to be able to hem in Marcel Reed, force him into some throws off his back foot? Let the secondary players go out and hunt for the ball, that type of thing. I don't think that ultimately over 60 minutes that the Texas A&M's offense ends up struggling too much. I don't love their run game, like their conventional run game with their backfield right now, but I think Reed is just kind of playing at that level right now. And I'm worried on the other side that the Matt Zollers effect is a detriment to this Missouri team. And Pribula's injury kind of ends up being something that makes them a bit of a toothless tiger here as we get down into the stretch run of the season. Now, Zollers, I'm looking at his 24/7 page right now, and like he was a 4-star. He's with a 95 rating. Like he was the number 9 quarterback in this year's class. So I mean, he's legit. But this is a big ask for him. Obviously, it is going to be at home, so that helps things. But I do think that the drop off from Pribula to him is going to be something that we're gonna see Missouri have these like 3-and-outs, these quick drives. The defense gets tired out. Ultimately, A&M pulls away. So maybe I'd be interested in like a first quarter spread or money line for Mizzou. They're obviously going to be fired up there, but I think over the course of this game, A&M goes ahead and gets it done. I think if Pribula was playing, I would kind of circle this as the spot that A&M does get tripped up. I don't see it happening with Zollers. The metrics actually really like Mizzou against the spread, but it's hard to know exactly how much weight is being accounted for with the drop off at the quarterback position, because SP Plus has this almost as a pick. I mean, it has A&M just by 1.2 points.
Yeah, so I actually do like Missouri here, even with the backup quarterback, the freshman getting his first career start, for a couple of reasons. One, I trust Coach Drink to scheme something up offensively to be able to take advantage of this Aggies defense. And also what we've seen from Texas A&M this year, John, is when they go on the road, things don't look totally buttoned up and as good as they have when they're in College Station. Whether it's the Notre Dame game, which was a 1-point game scored in the 40s. The Arkansas game was a field goal game scored in the 40s. And then LSU, well, as we know, that was just the end of Brian Kelly. But Texas A&M was trailing at halftime in that game. They had to go on a 35-0 run to make that look as lopsided as it ended up being with the final score there. Like, I think Mizzou can hang around, and we've seen Missouri play really, really well at home, especially on defense. I trust that pass rush there to keep them in this game and maybe bottle up Reed a little bit, maybe force a turnover or two here. Like, we saw Missouri give Alabama fits before Alabama ultimately comes out with that win there. That was just a field goal game, though. I think Texas A&M does win this one, but I'm going to take Missouri to cover if I can get that 7 out there, and that's going to be on my card this weekend.
Okay, all right. I dig it. I think A&M's really good. I also think that they're not unbeatable. And this could be a tricky spot. So I think, if you can find that 7 out there, that might be a worthwhile endeavor. All
right, let's head up to the Big Ten. Oregon heads to Iowa this weekend. The Ducks favored by 6.5 on the road. We got a total sitting at 40.5. John, to me, I don't think there's a team in the country right now that needs to impress the committee more than the Oregon Ducks this weekend. I think kind of that shine of Oregon it's dimmed quite a bit, and it's dulled out since that Penn State game in overtime with how people look at Penn State now. Oregon since then, right? They lost to Indiana by 10 points at home. They played that sloppy game against Wisconsin in some bad weather. And now we got bad weather coming to Iowa this weekend, taking on an Iowa team that hung around with Indiana. And I think only lost to them like by 5 points or something like that. And I'm wondering, like, is Oregon going to be able to have that flashy offense that we've seen from them in the past? Are they going to be able to light up the scoreboard here against an Iowa team that, one, is going to play good defense, and two, from what we saw from Oregon in bad weather against a bad Wisconsin team, I don't know if they're going to be able to pull away in this one, but how do you feel?
I think this is a huge danger spot for Oregon. I think Iowa can win this game outright. Like I was saying at the top of the show, Iowa's a team to keep an eye on here, making a big run over the course of November, and I think it could start here at Kinnick. I think that I am concerned about the way that Oregon takes this show on the road, and their best win is a Penn State team that is completely fallen apart. I know it's a different team then versus now, but where's like the really impressive win for Oregon now? You don't really see it. I think Iowa's playing their best ball of the season right now, whereas I wonder if Oregon, a bit of like a September surprise more than anything, and over the course of the season, things wear off as far as that magic goes. So that plus the weather, I think the total has dropped like 5 points over the course of this week. I think it was like 45. Now it's at 40, something like that. So the numbers seem to still back Oregon. The numbers really do like Oregon, but I'm siding with Iowa here. I think at least against the spread, and I would not be stunned if there's an upset here in Iowa City.
Yeah, so here's a key stat for you guys. Oregon ranks 135th in the FBS in red zone defense. They allow opponents to score on 100% of their trips down to the red zone. Iowa's red zone offense ranks 10th in the country, scoring on a little over 94% of their opportunities down there. Like, I do think Iowa's going to be able to hang around here. I'm not sure that, like, they're all of a sudden this, like, great offensive team or anything like that, but if they can run the ball in Oregon, keep that clock moving, I think this could be a very sweaty afternoon out there in Iowa for Oregon here. I'm going to take the Ducks to win. Mm-hmm. I'm not feeling good about them covering that touchdown number there. So this game will not be on my card either. I'll take them to win. But yeah, we're going to learn a lot, I think, about this Oregon team on Saturday afternoon against Iowa, because I'm not so sure, John, that they're as good as that number 9 next to their name is right now.
They got to show it at some point, because now, again, like the resume tells us that they've only had one really big game, and they lost it pretty handily at home against Indiana. So they need to get things turned around here. Iowa's a very, very difficult place to play. This is like, I know Oregon had its introduction to the Big Ten last year, but this is like real Big Ten football that they're walking into here. And Mark Gronowski has started to play well, and I think that it totally dovetails with what you're saying about this Iowa red zone offense. He's just a bulldozer. Like, they're just however many downs it takes, like, he's just going to find a way to just like plunge into the end zone, just barely get the ball over the goal line, but still counts. So looking at him to have a nice day. And yeah, ultimately, this could be also something, the way that the clock situation is now. Like, Oregon just like might not have a ton of possessions, and that puts a lot of urgency on a per possession basis. And when you get urgency, when you get a little bit heated up, you make mistakes. Iowa's a defense that can make you pay for it. So really, really tight game here. Again, I would not be surprised if Iowa wins. I will take Oregon, but again, I don't feel great about it.
Let me ask you, do we get a special teams touchdown in this game?
Ooh, if we do, then Iowa's winning, I think. And if there is a special teams touchdown, it is an Iowa one.
Okay. All right. I like that. We'll see if that correlates on Saturday afternoon. But if it does, you heard it here first.
That's right.
All right. Let's bounce around some of these other games. Obviously, the game that I think over the summer everybody had circled for this weekend was LSU at Alabama. Little bit of we've come down a little bit from expecting that classic LSU Alabama type matchup here this weekend, but the Tide favored by 10.5 at home, John. Total sitting at 49.5. Do we see that dead cat bounce for LSU this weekend? Right, first game for Frank Wilson as their interim head coach. Both Brian Kelly and Joe Sloan, the offensive coordinator, are out. Like, do we all of a sudden is this LSU offense going to be able to finish off drives? Like, are we expecting that this weekend? I'm not sure I am, but I do think this team will play a little more inspired. Maybe you take LSU in the first half here, but this number, like, Alabama's just been so good at home. Like, they have just been basically they just go on like a death march through teams when they have to go to Tuscaloosa here. I expect a good effort from LSU here, but I'm not sure how much firepower and how much of a punch they're actually going to be able to pack in this one.
I don't either. And like the problem about finishing off drives is, like, Alabama, they have to have one of the best red zone defenses off the top of my head. Like, you just don't score.
They force turnovers in the red zone like nobody's business.
They love to get those. Their devil magic still exists. It's very bothersome to me. But regardless, this LSU team, I know that there's probably like a weight lifted in the locker room with Kelly being gone. Like, literally, no one was sad to see him go. No, there were no posts from the players being like, oh man, like, that guy did everything for me.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, like, when James Franklin got fired, like, Penn State players were like very upset. Everyone at LSU was like, all right, sick, nice, he's gone. That's good. But ultimately, I think that the season has got away from LSU, and I think that DeBoer keeps this Alabama team focused. I think, coming into the year, if you gave me this exact set of parameters, that, like, okay, LSU's season has gone totally sideways, Alabama's rolling, I would have maybe said DeBoer. I still am not trusting DeBoer all the way, but I think that the way that this team has bounced back since that opening loss to Florida State, I think it shows me that Alabama is one of the best teams in the country. I think that they would beat A&M like straight up if and when they play. I think they get this done. I think that LSU is just kind of playing out the string at this point.
Yeah, like I don't think Brian Kelly being gone is going to all of a sudden make Garrett Nussmeier not turn the ball over and be fully healthy, and LSU all of a sudden is going to have this great rushing attack here this weekend, and that they're going to be able to finish off drives here. This is still the same group of players, and I think they're going to struggle to contain Ty Simpson in this Alabama passing attack. So I would take Alabama to win and cover, but it's not on my card this weekend.
If there is a dead cat bounce to be had this weekend, look at Auburn. Because I think they hate Hugh Freeze a lot, and I think they like DJ Durkin. And Durkin, defensively, Auburn's been terrific. You had that great stat about teams that haven't allowed more than 24 points this season. And I think you also look at the fact that like Vandy's just kind of played this gauntlet over the last month, and obviously like things have gone sideways for Auburn. Their offense can't really get out of its own way. Although I think Durkin did announce there's going to be just one play caller, not three anymore, so that should help simplify things a bit. Would not surprise me if Auburn puts a pretty big scare into Vanderbilt.
Yeah, that's an interesting game, and I was going back and forth, and I do actually have this game on my card, and we'll get to it in a little bit here. But as we talked about on Monday, Auburn hasn't allowed an opponent over 24 points that you just mentioned this season. Vandy's team total is sitting at 26.5. So, interesting spot. We kind of talked about this last week, right, with Tennessee playing every single game over 57 against Oklahoma, and the total was 57, and I think they came in at 60. So that came through as well. So just a little interesting nugget in line there to keep an eye on as we head through this Saturday and Week 11. Staying in the SEC, Georgia heads to Mississippi State down there in Starkville. The Dogs favored by 8.5 now, John. This number's creeped up a little bit this week. We got a total sitting at 56.5. Georgia's played 6 SEC games this season. 5 of them have been decided by 10 or less. I'm just automatically looking at the first half line with how Georgia's played and how they've come out and how they've been sleepy to start these football games. Mississippi State plus 4.5 at home first half. What do you think?
I love that. I'm scared spitless about this game, man.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that I can be accused of just being paranoid, and I don't think it's anything to do with like overlooking Miss State and looking ahead to Texas. I just think that Miss State is a bad matchup for this Georgia team. I think the one thing that could kind of work in Georgia's favor is the fact that Miss State all right, back it up a second. So big quibble with Georgia all year, lack of pass rush. Miss State's offensive line is probably going to be the worst offensive line that they've played against since like Austin Peay. So like maybe it starts to almost look like Georgia has a pass rush in this game. If they dominate the trenches, then this gets out the window pretty quickly. But I think additionally, Miss State, the way that they run their offense, a lot of quick game. They got Anthony Evans, former Georgia Bulldog, kind of leading the way of their receivers. So he's going to be juiced up. I think Miss State's going to kind of throw the kitchen sink at him. It's going to be at 11 a.m. Kickoff body clock time for the Dogs. So I think that slow start stuff absolutely is a possibility to continue in this particular spot. I think Georgia escapes from Starkville, but it's not going to be pretty. SP Plus has Georgia only winning by 7. FEI has Georgia winning more comfortably by 12. And I would like to add that our pals at the Pony do have a standing offer for us if we want to go to the after party. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to swing that. I think I have to do some crap around the house on Saturday, but before this game starts. So I don't know if I'll be able to whip over to Starkville in time. But again, a huge thanks to our friends at the Pony for the invite. And if you are in the Starkville or West Point, Mississippi area, you should go check them out.
Definitely go do that. Appreciate the offer. I don't think I'll be able to make that one either, but that will probably be a pretty fun day, I am sure, down there in Starkville. I do think Georgia ultimately wins this game, but I could for sure see this game being tied at halftime because that's just how it seems every single Georgia SEC game is playing out.
Give me the over in this one. That's my best bet from this game.
56.5?
Yeah, and I know it's like skyrocketed. I think it was like 50 at open, so I know like money's pouring in on that one. I don't think that Miss State stops Georgia offensively. Like I think Georgia at minimum scores like 35 points, and I think Miss State, the way their offense is going versus this Georgia defense, I think that they can get us the rest of the way there.
All right, very good. Another game with a high total is Navy at Notre Dame. The total there in that one is 55.5, might even be up to 56 at this point. The Irish favored by 25.5, 26, depending on where you're looking. John, I think this is a name your number game for the Irish, coming back home after kind of a sluggish win against Boston College that, yes, they won by 2 touchdowns here. Navy's defense, I don't think they're going to be able to contain Notre Dame's rushing attack. Very similar to last year where the Irish scored 51 points, and I think they scored on every possession on that one. I think it's going to be something similar here in South Bend on Saturday. I think Notre Dame does a lot of this heavy lifting. I love the over in this game as well.
I love that. I could see, tons of points here. I need a big Jeremiah Love day for my college football best ball interests over on Underdog, so I could use it. But yeah, I don't have a ton to add here. Navy's obviously been impressive so far, but I think Notre Dame knows how to like shut that down, and I think that over the course of this game, like Notre Dame, the way their offense is so multiple, point city.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully there's no stressing on my part this Saturday afternoon when it comes to the Irish. Just got to keep doing your thing and put up more style points. Other games that I know you wanted to hit on here, what do you got? You want to talk about this Indiana at Penn State game? 14.5, the Hoosiers on the road. Does the death march just continue for them, or do you think they might actually have a little trouble maybe with Penn State on the road?
I think so, right? Like if I didn't see the number, I would be like, Indiana's going to win by 40. Why is it only 14.5? Why? Like Indiana's been favored on the road by 20 plus points against teams that are about Penn State's equal. Frankly, like Maryland last week, or did they UCLA? I guess that would have been in Bloomington, but same deal. And those were like 20-plus point spreads, and Indiana covered them with ease. We have that information. Penn State got, rocked in the second half last week against Ohio State. Didn't end up being close. It was a little bit shaky there in the first half for the Buckeyes, but I just keep coming back to why is it only 14.5? So that game is my, stay away of the century.
Okay. I'm going to throw one more out at you that I've been looking at the total, and I've just been staring at it all morning. It's not on my card. We're going to get to our best bets in a minute. But Syracuse at Miami, we got a 45.5. And I've just been staring at it. What offense from Miami do we see? Because it wouldn't surprise me if Miami comes out and wins this game 48-14. I also wouldn't be surprised if Miami somehow only wins this 24-10. But for some reason, the over here is just kind of is just staring at me with this number being that low.
If Miami has any pride left, they almost cover this by themselves. I know that FEI has this one with about a 50-point total. I'm not sure what SP Plus has, but I think the over is insanely tantalizing there. So I don't know what to tell you there.
All right, very good. Well, why don't you let's tell the people our cards for this weekend here, right? Okay, week 10 was a little rough. Between the two of us, I think we only had 3 wins, which is not good. That is not good at all. So week 11 is here. Best bets for week 11, John. What do you got for us?
All right, my best bets for week 11. Give me Tulsa FAU under 64.5. Just seems like a lot of points. Give me UConn plus 9.5 against Duke. It's run away from me a little bit. It was 8.5 earlier this week. Still like UConn at this new number. Give me Rutgers, Maryland under 59. That just smells like a disgusting, awful game. So I don't know how they get to 60. UNLV minus 4.5. Give me Florida State money line at Clemson.
Toilet bowl.
Yeah,
toilet bowl.
Jim Donnan, former Georgia coach on some Georgia pod this week, he's like, "Oh, that's a pillow fight of the year." So that I love that. It's just such an old Southern guy thing to say. And then give me Miss State plus 9.5.
All right. Are you throwing the total in that game on there as well?
Yeah, let's double dip here. Give me the over. What's it? 56.5.
56.5.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. For me, let's go Memphis, minus 3.5, taking on Tulane at home. I think Memphis needs to put up some style points this weekend. I think this is a good spot for it. Who knows how dialed in that Tulane team is in with their head coach being in every single coaching rumor right now. So give me Memphis at home to win this game by at least 4 points. I'm going to go Rice. We're going to bet on food, taking on UAB. UAB's been horrible on the road. Rice is at home in this one. I think they win this by a field goal. Missouri +7. I think they can hang around with Texas A&M. I think we get a little bit of that freshman quarterback just too stupid to know the moment and hangs around in this one. Let's go New Mexico State +9.5 at home against Kennesaw State. A little CUSA action. Navy Notre Dame over 55.5. Kentucky +3.5 at home against Florida. I'm going to do it.
Let's go.
I think that's a good spot there for the Wildcats to keep this one close. And I'm going to go Auburn and Vanderbilt under 45.5. I just think both these offenses are going to have a lot of trouble on Saturday afternoon. As we talked about, Auburn's one of the only teams in the country that has not allowed more than 24 points in a game. And, well, they also just really struggle offensively as well. And this Vandy defense is pretty good, too. So give me the under there in that matchup.
Yeah, I could see this one being like 20-17 Vanderbilt.
Absolutely. I knew you were going to have Maryland in your card in one way or another. I wasn't sure which way you were going to go. You're going the under there, but the Mike Locksley situation this week has been wild. What do we see from Maryland here, right? I think they're getting 1.5 points at
Yep.
Rutgers. Like, do they rally around their coach? Do they try to kick him out the door? What kind of effort do you think we see from the Terps?
It's so complicated because it's so similar to every other year under Mike Locksley. Like there is an outpouring of numbers of how Locksley has performed in Big Ten play since taking over it as the coach, and for him to just have no shame about, like, if we win against Rutgers, that's actually an improvement from last year. It's like, dude, you got like the best quarterback in the state of Maryland who's been great. You have this defense that's actually been awesome, one of the best in the country this year, and you're still just finding a way to lose these close games. I knew when they blew it against Washington that things could unravel, and they do. So the players, they do love Mike Locksley. Like, that's why he's able to recruit so well. But the game day prep is horrendous for this Terrapins team. I'm ready to see him go. If they lose to Rutgers, I hope they get into the James Franklin sweepstakes. I know I've been wishcasting that for a while. And then zooming out, just because these two teams, well, they used to be the new kids in the Big Ten. And the Big Ten, famous for its trophies, for its rivalries. I feel like Maryland and Rutgers should have one of those. And for me, just because of who these two programs are, the bronze urinal cake, I feel like, should be the name of what the trophy that Maryland and Rutgers are playing for.
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's great. Yeah, it's got to be something, and you need to have it like something something East Coasty too, because these are the two far East Coast schools,
Right.
Compared to everybody else. So yeah, I don't know if we call it like the Jersey Turnpike, the Battle of the Jersey Turnpike, or something like that, which just screams bronze urinal cake too.
Yeah, bronze
on top of
trough.
it. There we go. All right, I think that's going to do it for us here on this Week 11 preview show. We will be back on Monday to break it all down and talk about, well, what's this committee going to do next Tuesday night for their second set of rankings heading into Week 12. But thank you very much for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel at College Football Tailgate on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. New episodes twice a week. For John, I'm Dan. We'll talk to you guys on Monday.